Question of the day. What is your favorite game with crazy production? Because today we're talking about Deep Shelf. No, this is not a sequel to My Shelfie 2 Electric Boogaloo. This is in fact Deep Shelf. And as you know, we have the second largest oceanography channel viewership on YouTube.
Liar!
Probably not a real fact, but it's about the ocean. You're exploring the ocean and the deep shelves in the ocean. And there's a dragon. The dragon is not like something in Blood Rage. In fact, this dragon is almost friendly. But let's take a look at Deep Shelf right now. We'll come back up, talk final thoughts right now, or in a minute, later. All right, this is Deep Shelf set up in the middle of a game. Now there's a whole lot going on out here. A couple of things to note that'll be mentioned in the components section. All of these are recessed sections in the board. Everywhere you see a spot, something fits in, including these dice. Now, let's talk the rough play of the game. Essentially, you have these cards that you're going to be choosing an action, and then you can choose a second action. However, if you choose a second action, it will go here. If there's a power at the bottom that gives you the power action, the only way to activate that is by using it as your second action. When you take your second action, that card is going to move over into Overworked. Otherwise, the card in your first action in Overworked will come back to your hand. That way, you can do your actions multiple times in a row. These actions are going to be things like move. You're going to move your submarine or your crawlers, which are these cool little ocean floor skimmer guys, which hold resources, by the way, all over the ocean floor here. Now, this is what's called the shallows. That's the deep. That's the trench over there. That dragon doesn't fight or anything like that. He just makes stuff expensive. Just a cool looking dragon. Now, essentially what you're going to be doing is you'll move out onto a shelf. These spaces are unexplored. If you want to explore them, you'll use the scout portion of the move action, which allows you to take 2 tiles out of here. You'll choose one of them, put it onto that spot that you're scouting. Now, some of the powers, and it is asymmetrical. Everybody has certain player powers. Not super asymmetrical. I mean, you're not playing like Root, but every faction has certain benefits and certain detriments to it. You can move, once you move, you can move your submarine and your extractors up to their momentum, and then you'll scout. That's the move card. Let's do the next one, which is pretty simple. This is extract. When you extract, you pay your upkeep cost. Now this will go up based on what I'll show you the player board in a moment. Certain things out here in the actions. Now your upkeep cost for Carla right now is 3. She'll pay $3. Then she'll extract once per submarine and extractor in a shelf. So currently, she has an extractor here and the submarine there. So she'll pull resources off of those places. And the way that works is, now this one's been exhausted, if that die is there, so that's 4 of the palladium, you'll turn that die to 3 and you'll put a palladium either onto the shelf, onto the submarine, which I'll show you here, or onto your surface storage. Then you'll extract once more if you have that symbol up there with a depth charge. Allows you to power it up. Now there are ways to get that either by scientist on the top of the board up there, you see the scientist, or by the upgrades over here. Now these are a lot of upgrades that you can do, and this is a really cool mechanic. And at the top of the board, I'm not sure if it's on frame, there is a market as well. We'll talk about in just a minute. When you extract, you're extracting either resources or an anomaly. So this is an anomaly tile here. You'll take an anomaly token first, and if you have room in your laboratory section on your board, well, let's say you built a lab. Now there are 2 boards. This is kind of your society and the other one's your submarine board. If you have room, you'll put your anomaly token here and get the power for it, and then, or the points for it at the end of the game, as well as when you do the science action, which we'll go over now, you discard a kelp and spend a refined resource to purchase upgrades. So those would be here. You purchase the upgrades based on the cost. These can be discounted once someone pays the secondary cost of an upgrade. Case in point, this one is Restoration Hub. It's 2 palladium and 2 gold. However, that can be reduced on the secondary cost, but it just allows you to do some really cool things with your sub. And that's the whole point of the upgrades. They make your stuff better, make you move faster, make you be able to extract more. In my case, it lets me be able to extract more without having to build extractors. In fact, it tells me not to even build extractors. Anyway, you'll then your surface storage is where you must spend those upgrades from, and that's on your submarine board. You have your own cargo hold as well as surface storage down here. Now some of them will be able to hold more, and then you can obviously upgrade this to take those spots and be able to place in there. Your upgrades will go here onto your board and slot in. You can only have certain types of upgrades. Once you want to upgrade the upgrade of that type to another one, you'll just replace that one. Now let me continue on with the science. If you purchase an upgrade, advance once on the research track for each of those showing. Now the way that happens is you can either have it from the beginning of the game with the scientist, or every time you build a laboratory out here, that will open up another one of those symbols. So you'll move up these tracks. Now these are victory point tracks, plus they'll give you bonuses in the game. This is one of the ways the game ends, is if someone reaches all the way to the end. The other way is this track over here, which is the exploitation and collapse track. Essentially what happens is when this exclamation mark shows up, you'll move these cubes. Once the brown cube meets the yellow cube, you'll do an exploitation event. It'll adjust the markets, it'll move the dragon, but also it'll keep moving it up to where there are in-game points and you'll score at the end of the game. That's science. Loading dock. This is a pretty simple one. You can move your submarine from wherever it is on the board all the way back to the loading to your docks, which for the green player are these two shelves. Mine are here. That's the first thing you can do. These cards are always done top to bottom, by the way. If you have a unit at the dock, swap any number of resources between your dock and surface stores. So you can move stuff if it's in your dock, units in your dock. You can switch between crawlers and all that sort of stuff, as well as whatever. And then you'll resolve up to 2 market transactions. That would be buy or sell a single unit. If you buy, the price of the good goes up. If you sell, the price of the good goes down, just like any great market game. However, the one rule, you can probably already guess it, you can't sell to lower the price and then buy back that same item for a lower price. That's just the one rule they have. Process ore. So this will be how you take the big chunks of ore, like this, and refine them into the better, smaller chunks of the same color. You'll gain $1 first. You'll refine up to 1 raw ore, and that includes slag, which would be an orange cube. It can turn into any of the 3 refined ores. And then you'll get to do 1 from your surface storage, and then for each of those symbols, you usually get that from either augment up there with the science, or you're putting smelters out on the board. That allows you to do more of those. These will also raise your upkeep costs. For each of that symbol, augment symbol, refine up to 2 more raw materials that is adjacent to your smelter. So if they're sitting on the board on the shelf with your smelter, you can then upgrade those into processed material. This one has a power action, gain $1 per augment, which is pretty great. Build. This is how you get things out there. You may spend $2 to replace an extractor with a smelter. This is called a special power. Or $2 and a kelp to replace an extractor with a worker complex. Worker complexes essentially are on your main board, and they're going to drop the cost of your upkeep. So as you build stuff and your upkeep goes up, you can lower that upkeep by having worker complexes. Now, each of these cards are slightly different for a faction, so just because it's on this card doesn't mean it's going to be on the card of the faction you choose. But the major actions of each one are the same. So, spend a resource to build up to 1 facility and an explored shelf in your tube network. So you'll notice these tubes that are out here. To be part of the tube network, it has to be connected to, by a green, in her case, a green tube on the side of it, right? Connected back to the dock. You can put one of your buildings out there. That'd be your worker complex, your lab, your smelter, or your extractors, which Carla has an example of everything except the lab out there. The labs would go out. Let's say you put a lab here. You'll take the scientist, put it on one of the upgrades up there, and then you have a space for an anomaly token. Plus, you're going to have that extra boost when you move up on these tracks here. Smelters are going to refine ore, extractors are going to be able to pull stuff from the surface, and then the worker complex, like I said. Plus, everybody has a super powered project, which is pretty cool, and they're all different. And they also unlock your 7th card, which you can have for your own special. These are very unique to your powers, to your player. You can also build crawlers, and you can also build more tubes to move your stuff further along. And the reason that's important is crawlers can only move along tube networks. Subs can go anywhere. Crawlers are a little hard to navigate why you need them sometimes, other than moving materials, because they can extract. You can, however, put stuff in them and they can move back to your dock, but they move 2 momentum at the start. The reason that's important is to get into the shelf, you cannot move, you have to move 2 momentum to get into a shelf space or a deep space. So you'll move down into the deep by moving 2 momentum, so which means subs cannot go there currently until you upgrade them. That's the build, that's the extract. So extract, pay your upkeep costs, extract once per submarine. We did that already. You'll drop those out there. That's the majority of what you're going to be doing. You're going to be playing this game, moving around, getting resources, using the resource to upgrade your subs so that you can move up on these tracks to gain points, and really just continue to build your society out. That's really the majority of the game. There are a few other things as far as, like I said, the dragon, it makes things more expensive on the two shelves that it's facing. So these two would actually be $2 more to do your upkeep costs and things like that. The green side makes it cheaper. But you're going to be building out, collecting these resources, collecting anomalies, trying to get points, build your society, moving up on these tracks. At the end of the game, the person with the most points wins the game. That is a rough overview of how you play Deep Shelf. All right, that is Deep Shelf. Now, here's the thing. As you know, for the entire year, we've been doing a rubric system where we break down the games based on certain criteria. Things like concept, board layout, mechanics, art direction. We're changing art to production because, after all, it's not just art that matters, it's the production of the whole thing. Gameplay and the rule book. Now, some of these you may weigh differently than others, but this is how I'm weighing them in my review. And as we know, more than anything, reviews are subjective.
You sure about that?
So, let's start right now with concept. 8.5. I like the idea. You're exploring the ocean and you're not fighting, you're not doing mystical stuff. No, you're really just future sci-fi. If you like that game, Underwater Cities, this theme is for you. You're building a civilization underwater. You're scouting out new places on the ocean floor. You're sending your rovers and you're picking up resources. You're refining those resources. The concept to me, really great. Solid 8.5. Up next, we have the board layout. This would be the layout of the board. Basically, how does the game look to you as a gamer? Not to you as a art person looking at it, but when you see the board, is it pretty straightforward? Like, what does it look like? What do you do? Well, I love the fact you have your ship board, you have your civilization board, you have the main board. All of these are nice inlaid boards where you put things on them and they fit so nicely. I really love how the dice fit for the resources. Boy, oh boy, that's great to me. So, board layout is a solid 9. 9. It's big. Mechanics. Not like the guy who works down the street. Mechanics. This is an 8 for me. I really like what you're doing. You've got your set of cards and you're going to play an action and you can play a second action. You can choose not to if you really don't want to lose that action. You want to do it multiple times in a row, but you need to do this one first. I like how you play the cards. I like that you can leave resources on the ocean floor, in your surface storage, or in your ship, your submarine. I think that's really cool. You're moving around, you're taking those resources from raw resources, you're refining them into better resources. To me, that is just such a cool concept. Really, really like the mechanics of this game. Art direction. It's a 9. Now, why do I give it a 9 for art direction? Because you can see where everything goes and what it does based on the symbols. Symbols on the card make sense. Symbols on the board make sense. Do this, move up on this track if you have more of these symbols. Well, you know you have those symbols from the scientist. How do I know my upkeep? Well, it's right there on your board. Excellent, excellent art direction. Everything makes sense as you look at the game. Coming up next is production. You guessed it, another 9. Wow, this game looks amazing. It looks fantastic on the table. Everything fits so nicely. I love upgrading the ships on your shipboard. I love the components. The art is really great. Solid 9 for production. Great looking game. Gameplay, it's an 8. Really like this. It is a little bit slow to start. It's one of those games where it takes a little bit to get that engine running, and once you do, boom. What I really like about it, though, is that each faction plays differently. So you've got different factions playing slightly different than the other ones. For instance, you may be focused on getting the first excavators, whatever they're called, onto the ocean floor early on one faction. Well, the other one says, don't even do that. Rush out there and use your submarine and your surface excavators expansion upgrade to do that. Rulebook is a 9 as well because it's such a really good rulebook. You find a whole page on each action card, what it does. If there's any questions about it, it's easy to find. I did not have any questions of, wait, can you do this? The only thing I didn't understand because I missed it, it's not the rulebook's fault, is your dock is not the little place with the thing that says dock. It's the 2 shelves in front of it. Not a big deal. You can probably figure that out if you're not a moron.
You're an idiot.
All total together comes to an 8.6. Oh, it's a really good game. 8.5 is what we have to go with. You know, I round up or down depending on where it hits. 8.5, solid game. Deep Shelf, really, really like this game. Like the production, like all of it. That is Deep Shelf. I'm a big fan. Make sure you follow us on X and Instagram at Dice Tower Bryan. And also make sure to check out the new fall merch coming to the merch store at dicetowerstore.com. Till next time, we'll see you.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you, and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.